Ladies and gentlemen, let's for a GameSpot video. PewDiePie is, and I quote, more influential amongst teens than the Hollywood elite. And in addition to that, we're going to be discussing recent news that websites such as, say, GameSpot have actually been downsizing. In other words, they are losing money. They're just not making as much as they used to. So I figured this is a really good topic. The two pieces of news have happened to intersect recently, and I figured this is a pretty good time to discuss this larger issue. So let's start with the whole PewDiePie thing. PewDiePie, this survey was commissioned by Variety, and it showed the most influential figures amongst Americans, this is the age between 13 and 18, are basically personalities from, well, YouTube and social media. In this list, PewDiePie actually managed to hit number 3. So that's actually above even, say, Paul Walker, who is, say, number 6. And then you've got, let's say Smosh, who's number 1. You've got the Fine Bros, who are number 2. It's pretty interesting, because you've got Ray William Johnson, 18. Jenna Marbles, 16, and so on. Leonardo DiCaprio only manages to get in at number 20. And even Johnny Depp manages 14, Vin Diesel 13, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm just trying to paint you guys a picture. Meanwhile, as I alluded to at the very beginning of this video, a lot of websites, we're talking like the larger, well-known websites here, like, for example, IGN, like, for example, GameSpot, are actually starting to downsize. They're quite simply not making as much money as they used to. Now, we could blame a variety of different reasons for this. We could say that maybe if it's in the last couple of months, it could be the dry period. So we all know about the dry period, especially if you're into reporting or coverage of games, but even if you're, say, a consumer, you're most likely going to know about the dry period, where, quite simply put, in this period of time, the last couple of months, there's just very little out. Everyone gets hit by it, whether you're a YouTuber, whether you're a major website, unless you're a Let's Player, and even then, you've got issues, because there's just no really big game releases, so you've just got to kind of make do. So we could potentially blame that, and we could also maybe blame, say, people not clicking on ads so much. That's potentially a reason, right? I don't really believe so. The fact of the matter is, people are just, quite simply put, not going to websites as much as they used to. In fact, they are pretty much just going to YouTube. They're going and watching games on Twitch. And there are multiple reasons behind this, to be totally and utterly blunt with you. For one, when you're looking at reviews on IGN and so on, just for example, I'm not picking on the guys over at IGN. I actually respect most of their work. But if you check it out, it's like they are starting to do more of the Let's Play type of thing. They're trying to interact more with their audience, and this is one of the reasons. Do you remember back, let's say, when the original Xbox 360, well, the original Xbox 360, let's just say the Xbox 360 was released, I remember signing up to IGN Prime, because most of the stuff just wasn't available on social media websites. They're just, YouTube, I believe, was around, kind of, to a degree, and people were uploading bits and pieces to other video sharing platforms, but it just wasn't as big. And I wanted to watch Jay Allard talk about the future of the Xbox brand. I really wanted to watch this sucker, so I actually paid money to join IGN. And back prior to that, when the PlayStation 2 and like the Dreamcast and all of these consoles were like the big thing, if you wanted reviews, you know, there might be someone hosting something on, say, GeoShitters. I'm sorry, I pronounced that wrong. GeoCrap. But generally speaking, it's like the only thing you could really do is either check message boards and hope for the best, or you would check out maybe an embedded tiny-ass video on GameSpot or something similar, and you could bet your bottom dollar that the video quality would be awful, and it just wasn't a happy, fun time, because, well, the internet back then, quite frankly, just wasn't as robust as it is now. The other problem with this method of consumption is that you've basically got very little choice. You're looking, for example, myself, before I really did RGT and all of this other stuff, I used to use the following methods to basically figure out if I wanted a game. I'd maybe read magazines, and I would go over to the likes of IGN, I would go to GameSpot, I'd maybe check out some message boards and so on, and I'd basically say to myself, okay, this looks cool, and I'd read long-ass previews, and I'd read long-ass reviews, and I'd watch any snippets of gameplay or trailers that I could possibly get my hands on, and I'd basically make my decision. And then I'd cough up the cash. Now, it's not like that. The bottom line is, you won't always like the same type of game that a reviewer likes, and it's very hard as a reviewer to be completely subjective, or should I say objective. But now, you can simply find someone who has similar tastes to you on, say, YouTube, or similar tastes to you on Twitch, or, even if you don't give a rat's ass about their opinion necessarily, you can just watch the gameplay unedited. Another point about all of this is, oftentimes, websites, larger websites, simply can't say certain things or certain facts because they just don't want the reprisal of a larger studio. This has happened in the past. I mean, poor review scores, for example, have landed certain websites in trouble because, effectively, let's just call them Publisher A, have paid website B a substantial amount of money, whatever the hell that is, to advertise their game in, like, let's just say, like, the top of their website and whatever else, maybe a background ad, whatever the hell, it doesn't matter. But then a reviewer has said, well, actually, this game is pretty much like being kicked repeatedly in the testicles. I don't want to, say this is a good game. And then, because of their honesty, they've given the game, let's just say, for example, 4 out of 10. And then they've gotten in trouble. The actual website has gotten in trouble with the publisher because they've just said, hey, we're supposed to be paying you guys to advertise this. And then you get this massive conflict of interest. I think the other point about all of this as well that's very different is when you're, this is actually moving more onto the stars, the way YouTubers and other people in the social media are becoming like such phenomenons. I feel one of the reasons behind this is because you look at someone like Paul Walker, you look at someone like Vin Diesel, you look at someone like Johnny Depp and Daniel Radcliffe and, say, I don't know, Steve Carell, and you don't really feel that you have this connection with them. They're not really interacting with their fans maybe as much as, say, a YouTuber would. For example, myself, and I'm nowhere near that big, but I'll try to respond to someone who's messaging me on Facebook. I'll try to respond to people on Twitter, and just generally speaking, I'll try and do, questions and whatever as I can do. Obviously, at the bottom line is I am working. That's generally speaking why I don't respond to some comments, but it's not because I don't want to. It's just simply because of time. And more to the point, it's like people have this connection where they see this regular guy or regular girl and they can make this connection much more than, say, a movie star. And I genuinely believe that's another major point of it. You can see someone like myself or PewDiePie or whomever, it doesn't really matter, and you could say, hey, he likes the same game as me, and you kind of get this connection because you're watching, and it's actually them. They're not playing a certain role. I mean, sure, you can argue, and I'm sure people will, that PewDiePie is maybe playing up his fear or whatever. I don't really watch the guy. I have nothing against PewDiePie whatsoever. I just don't really watch anyone on YouTube, to be honest with you. Maybe watch the odd thing here and there. I just don't have the time. And it's no disrespect to PewDiePie. I just don't really watch it, to be honest. But the bottom line is, you can kind of get to know their personalities. You can actually get to know the real them. On the other hand, let's just say Vin Diesel, you don't really know his real personality unless he's doing interviews and stuff, and interviews and short cameo appearances don't really make a good indication of what their real personality is, and you start to build a camaraderie with a YouTuber or a streamer, particularly if they're bloody stuck. I mean, I have watch a couple of live streams, it's like, you know, if you see someone who's stuck on, for example, Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and they just cannot figure out what the hell to do in a puzzle, and you're like, okay, I haven't played this before, so you're trying to figure it out with them, and you're maybe giving them ideas on the stream or whatever. It starts to build this connection, and I think that's pretty I think that's pretty important and pretty key. Now, that's not to say that this doesn't have a dark side. Some YouTubers have been caught, or have even admitted, to bribery in games. Now, I want to make this clear. Bribery is not a review copy, because some people who maybe aren't too familiar with the whole way this works, they get the two mixed up. A bribe is not a review. It's not a review copy. Like, sometimes we get a review copy, and it's like, that's it. So it's good that, for our point of view, because we're not a huge channel, it's great that we don't have to cough up the cash for the piece of software or whatever it is we're reviewing. But at the end of the day, it's a tool. And I can tell you honestly, even games that I genuinely like, sometimes I just don't go back to playing them. Not because they suck, not because I didn't enjoy them, not because I was lying. It's just because I genuinely don't have the time to go back and play the games. And I can actually screenshot my Steam list, and I've got hundreds, literally, of games. In some cases, ones that I've even bought on Steam sale and I just haven't played. The other point as well, even with hardware, you get review samples. So it's not like a graphics card manufacturer like Nvidia or AMD or Intel or whomever. Obviously, Intel are more known for the CPUs, but you get the general gist. They don't give you a sample and then say to you, well, I want you to give me a positive review. It's implied that if they've made a good product, you've got a certain viewer base, and, you know, if they didn't screw up royally, they are going to get sales. Because let's say, for example, a video, let's just use easy numbers, so in other words, not ridiculous numbers. Let's just say a video gets 1,000 views, and generally speaking, they get a lot more than that, but let's just use easy to use figures for those of us who are bad at maths. So let's just say it gets 1k views, and you might get someone, let's just say it's a graphics card review. You might get 3 people, you might get 4 people or 5 people, whomever, out of that 1,000 who genuinely do want to buy that graphics card. They're not just looking at this video because they're curious, they genuinely are looking to buy that video, and they might not necessarily buy that specific brand. Like, for example, they might not necessarily buy his brand, they might buy a Sapphire, or they might not buy EVGA, they might go with Gigabyte, or whatever. But the bottom line is they will buy a similar card based on your recommendation. Therefore, that company, the bottom line, they will get some cash. What we're discussing here is a YouTuber will actually get paid a different amount of cash. So, for example, I honestly don't know what the going rate is, because I've not personally, I've got a couple of offers, but I've not really pursued them, to be totally honest. But genuinely speaking, a YouTuber will be paid a certain amount of cash to show off a game. And that's pretty much all it is. And I'm sure we all know about the whole Xbox One code. And here's the point with this. I don't think it's a bad thing to do promotions. I genuinely don't. I don't think it's a bad idea to do paid promotions. Some people might frown on it, but I don't feel it's trashing your integrity as long as you're being honest. That's it, really. There's no middle ground. If you say, look, I'm showing this off because I was basically paid to show it off, that's all there is to it. Make of it as you will. I think, to be honest, you can, for the most part, tell us also if you're really enjoying something. Like, if you're just kind of going through the motions and you're gritting your teeth, especially if the video is heavily edited, and you can just tell that the person, you know, is raging a lot in the background, then it's, you know, it's fairly obvious. Of course, there'll always be a place for websites like IGN. Personally, it's actually one of the reasons that I've got redgamingted.com, and I do articles there. Well, for one reason, we do a lot of graphics comparisons and analysis and hardware reviews, and it's just, generally speaking, easier to actually have some stuff in written format. It just works better. Plus, as well, there are copyright issues with stuff like screenshots, which generally speaking, is just it's just a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. I don't honestly know why. It's just a bit weird. That's one of the reasons that we do so many screenshots and stuff in article format. But don't be fooled. These companies, and we're talking big ones here, and not necessarily even video game companies, they are noticing the rise of the YouTube star, or of the streaming star, and they're definitely starting to want to get a piece of that, to be totally honest with you. And I don't honestly believe that anyone has negative or harmful intentions here. At the end of the day, it's a little weird, actually, to be contacted sometimes, even from me, by companies. It really is, especially like the first couple of contacts when you start speaking to companies that you've really revered for a long time. You know, when you start hearing from the likes of Electronic Arts, when you actually get emails from huge companies and they're like, yeah, we'd like you to review this game, or we'd like you to maybe put out a promotional release for us, or we'd like you to review this graphics card, or this, or whatever it is, it's irrelevant. It's a very strange feeling. But I truly, honestly believe, and I personally, anyway, will be always honest. I know sometimes I maybe go a little bit harsh on the next generation consoles, but I'm just being honest with my opinion. Unfortunately, I've had to buy all my hardware, well, most of my hardware myself in that respect. So, in the end, I think you've just got to build a good relationship with your audience. And I don't think that IGN have burned bridges. I don't think GameSpot have burned bridges. I just think that now things are changing, and they will survive. I don't think that we're going to be seeing GameSpot die. I don't think we're going to be seeing Kotaku or Polygon or IGN or any of these guys. They're not going to just fall over suddenly. It's not going to be the end of the current internet and this revelation where everyone is on YouTube and all you see is, I don't know, GameSpot, YouTube, and that's it. Because that's just not realistic. It's not going to happen. But at the same time, I do feel that the internet and the way that you personally consume media is going to change substantially. And this change, this evolution is not going to remain consistent. I don't necessarily know in 3 years' time if YouTube is still going to be the main system. It might be something else. There might be other rivals. I keep hearing of murmurs and rumors and whispers and thoughts, especially now with the whole content system with YouTube, and we just don't know really what the future is going to bring. All we do know is that we are, well, at least me personally, are very grateful for each and every single share, each and every single view, each and every single like and comment and discussion. It really means a huge amount to a channel our size. But even, I would imagine, and I'm not going to speak for him, because as I said, I don't know the chap, I don't watch his stuff, so I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I imagine even someone of PewDiePie's level, when you start getting millions of subscribers, I imagine it's the same thing for him as well. It's not just the financial reward, it's knowing that you've put your time, your effort, your heart basically into doing something, and hopefully more people like it than dislike it. I think that is ultimately the important thing. Anyway, guys, this video has turned a lot ramblier, if that's a thing, than I anticipated, and a lot lengthier too. But hopefully you found it somewhat interesting. So, I'm going to do ye old typical, if you could like and subscribe or comment or, I don't know, send virtual hugs. That would be mighty appreciated. Anyway, I'll see you soon. Take care and bye for now.